After watching this show, you can say my favorite day of the week isn't Friday, it isn't Saturday, it isn't Sunday, it isn't... Yeah, let me just stop this horrible joke now. Over the weekend, I finally got to watch Wednesday, the late November 2022 release that has had these stan accounts in a chokehold this past month and a half. It's a dark comedy slash mystery based around the popular 1960s character of Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. I'm going to be straight up, I knew absolutely nothing about these characters going into things, other than what they looked like in that iconic... So while I may have not caught every slight reference in detail, I also went in with a completely open mind and gave it a fair shot. Wednesday is an 8-episode series surrounding Wednesday Addams and her adjustment when starting her new school of Nevermore Academy, a renowned school famous for being a place for the strange and outcasted. Basically the Addams Family meets Harry Potter, or the plot of Legacies for all those Vampire Diaries fans out there. Her simple life of adjusting goes awry as a deranged killer is on the loose, attacking those in her school in the local normie town of Jericho. With the help of her very powerful visions and her newfound friendships, Adam takes it upon herself to uncover this deadly mystery. And in my wholehearted opinion, it was cool, I guess. Wait. Before you Jenna lovers dislike this video using the same hands that you dance with, just hear me out for a second. The show itself, for me, just felt very wanky in structure. We were going from place to place with no setup at times, and obscure things would just happen simply because the plot demanded it to. Like almost every bit of story progression either involves people accidentally stumbling upon something or someone, people unknowingly revealing info because you just gotta have someone listening behind every corner, or any other of the various extremely unlikely coincidences that took place. And it just makes the story feel flimsy. When you think about how we couldn't have made it to a certain place in episode 6 if this one specific character didn't sit in this one specific spot randomly in episode 2. In one episode, Wednesday was called sneaking around twice by the same dude in the same area within the span of like 20 minutes to move along the plot. It makes it even work when you do take the time to actually think about these coincidences, and it creates further confusion or forces you to make major leaps and assumptions to try to justify it. And I so hope that the writers for the show didn't try to cover these coincidences by having it be the real reason behind Wednesday's core philosophy of not believing in coincidences. Also, if you don't have a speaking role, you might as well just pack it up, because you're almost predetermined to be the most incredibly incompetent person of all time. Not only are the most groundbreaking yet simple discoveries not made until Wednesday comes along, but the most mind-boggling useful abilities are just never used during the investigation. I don't know about you guys, but I think the ability to mind control someone with your voice is pretty useful when looking into a serial killer while having the police on your back. When I say this, please take this in the least offensive way as possible, because I know that a lot of people absolutely adore this series, but this show felt like it had the structure of a Disney Channel original movie, with the unnecessary edge at times of a 15-year-old who thinks saying the N-word is peak comedy. It gets a bit better as the ball starts rolling, but I never found myself being fully engaged, craving for more information to be given. Even by the end of it, with the whole stalker plot point being set up for the already confirmed season 2, it didn't really get me all giddy like it seems to have done for a lot of people. But you know what? Even with how mediocre to decent I think the show's actual plot is, it's still clear as day as to why it's become such a supreme success it has been, it probably will be for years to come. That being, it's an extremely high character-driven show. Despite the questionable story built around her, you can't argue that Wednesday Addams isn't a fantastic character, and that Jenna Ortega didn't absolutely kill the role. Being portrayed as a snarky, monotone know-it-all that is confronted with challenges centered around her complex relationship with her emotions and letting people get too close to her, she's great enough to root for even when she does things that make you want to throw your laptop out the window. Characters like this, those that are well-rounded, entertaining, and likable, there are no shortages of those throughout the show. Like boom, look at the roommate in need, a girl that is defined by her bubbling attitude and enthusiasm, but to a degree that isn't overbearing, as the personality does not translate to pure stupidity like in many other mediums. Or boom, look at the school rival of Bianca, a strong-willed siren who is trying to shed the shackles of her past to develop a better future. Sure, she has her moments of opposition, but never to an unreasonable or questionable degree. I'm sure you can scroll through just about half the cast and find at least one well-rounded character that you can relate to on some level or another, especially with the heavy references to real-world injustices and traumas people face. And for many, that develops into some sort of character attachment as certain personalities become their own personal self-inserts. Pair that up with the emotional roller coaster that is the plot to the show that you are putting these characters through, and you get millions of people on your side and thousands that will defend this show with their life. It does help when your score is undoubtedly terrific, backed by the talented Danny Elfman, with the visuals also high class, which given the director of Tim Burton, everyone expected as such, unless you're Henry Selick. Yes, you can't deny that a huge part of the series' success is it being a reimagining of a beloved film family that has been a public darling for decades now, but I say that it's faced most of its commercial success from people just really falling in love with these interpretations of these characters. And in a lot of people's cases, the actor or actress behind the role as well. I have not been able to escape Jenna Ortega's face since You Season 2 aired. Wednesday is just the most recent winner of the TikTok to fame or Twitter to fame pipeline that has helped many other franchises like Marvel or Minions or even Netflix itself. Got 40-year-olds out there swinging their arms back and forth trying to do the Wednesday dance, and you know what? I can't be mad. They won. That doesn't mean I still can't point out the wishy-washy moments that do take place, because what type of pro-hater would I be to not do so? I mentioned this before, but this show does try to be culturally relevant and representative of modern struggles, except subtlety is the antithesis of being a strength for them. They are extremely on the nose when it comes to allusions to real-life race, gender, and sexual orientation-based discrimination, sort of like they're trying to be elusive about it while also openly patting themselves on the back for being so inclusive. This leads to moments like Wednesday calling out a dude for mansplaining, when funny enough he ended up bringing valid points about the validity of her argument, or my personal favorite, werewolf conversion therapy. It even kind of backfires on them sometimes, like when Morticia tries to make a point about how men like the mayor don't know what it's like to not be believed by law enforcement or society, clearly alluding to the injustices and the lack of belief that stirs against women when it comes to claims of sexual-based offenses. The only thing is that if they want to stay true to their plane of messages through illusions, Morticia is saying these things to a black man. A white woman explaining the injustices of law enforcement to a black man. Kind of makes it a bit awkward and funny. Now, I typically don't talk about ships because I don't really care. It's your own headcanon at the end of the day, so do what you want with it. But the shipping between Enid and Wednesday was something so prominent that I was hearing about this pairing before I even considered giving the series a chance. So little old me was expecting the characters to have the chemistry of a newlywed couple or something. You can only imagine my surprise when they don't allude to anything at all and are just two girls that are really good friends. Then I remembered that a lot of fandoms probably get their dating advice from TikTok, and it made a lot of sense. So often do people complain about the lack of platonic relationships in certain series, and then they turn around and pair Patrick with Plankton based on the vibes. My best guess is that their self-insert side of things is working a bit too hard, and they're just pairing up people who they personally would get with, because I can't really see it. You mean to tell me that sparks are flying because a notoriously spooked out character is holding onto her friend's arm for comfort? Well, I guess I don't know romance. Besides, I'm already kind of tired of this Wednesday love plot after they had a love triangle thing this season, and it got pretty old quickly. I'm sure she's going to be good without dating. If I had the power to go back and change one thing about this show, I would just go and scale it down a pinch, because the stakes just ended up being too high by the last episode, and it was left with some pretty dumb results to combat it. Pretty much the person behind everything summons up their ancestor from 400 years ago to murk every person at Nevermore Academy. This dude is literally like an ancient wizard, and they task like the only person not to have a special ability to help them in combat to fight him. The same dude that was shown to set the whole school on fire in 1 second and using his magic to nearly murk Wednesday earlier in 2 seconds now decided to counter the plot's stupidity with his own, as he now thought that weapons combat is the best option to go with. And when he finally goes in for the finishing hit, he doesn't use the explosion spell like before. No, he breaks out the magic air push spell that takes a lot of precious times to actually work, and he wonders how he got beaten in the end. Then another lady plans to murk Wednesday with a gun, except she got scared and drops the gun in panic from bees slowly collapsing onto her, even though she could have just shot her and then ran away from the bees. I personally would not choose to have a 400-year-old wizard as the final villain of your first season, but if you absolutely needed this as your final villain, you should have just had Wednesday face the villains with her friends to begin with. Not only does this make sense thematically with the isolated Wednesday finally learning to embrace her friendships, but it just makes sense as all of them are much more useful in a fight. I personally think that a person that can turn people to stone just by looking at them, and again, people that can control others with their voices, can be very useful in a situation like this, but that's just me. Wednesday season 1 is admittedly not my cup of tea. I'm probably not the main demographic, but I can see the appeal in a show like this. It's a decent mystery comedy that has the viewing experience heavily lifted from the charm and relatabilities of the actors. They pretty much just carried. As far as if I'll be tuning in for season 2, only time can